Now I'm going to sing you a little song that was very, very popular a few months ago.
In 1898, one of Britain's first superstars was born above this fish and chip shop. Gracie Fields grew up in Rochdale and began performing when she was just a child. After a long apprenticeship in music halls across the country, she became a star in the 1930s. She was a singer, an actress and a comedian who, despite her success, never lost her common touch. She pressed her 4 millionth disc in 1933, but she will always be best known for her legendary song, Sally. Sally, Sally. But while she was busy performing around the world, in a Kent orphanage, a young boy was listening to his favourite Gracie Fields record. The artist would have a profound effect on his life. Now 94, Michael Sunnox lives on the Isle of Sheppey in Kent.
We used to get every record that she made, you know. I think the first one was Fall In and Follow the Band. And at the end, there was a children's chorus, sort of. And they all called her Auntie Gracie. And I said one day, well, I wish I could call her Auntie Gracie. I don't know anyone. And this chap said, well, let's write to her.
And that's just what he did. Gracie Fields wrote back, but the orphanage intercepted the letter and kept it from Michael, insisting he write a second note.
Then I had to write a grovelling letter apologising for bothering her, and said, Sister in charge says that I've been a nuisance and I'm sorry.
But amazingly, a few weeks later, Gracie, true to her down-to-earth roots, arrived at the orphanage unannounced, asking if she could meet Michael.
That caused a sensation. I mean, we hadn't met anyone like that. She was my Auntie Grace, she said. And finished up sitting on the floor, surrounded by the boys, singing songs. She's a very caring person, very family-orientated. I think that's why she took an interest, because I didn't have that, she did.
It was the beginning of an extraordinary relationship. Gracie went on to marry Italian Boris Alperovici and moved to the Isle of Capri, where she had been true to her word and looked out for Michael, becoming a real auntie to him. They kept in touch through letters and postcards and met up whenever they could. He even visited her in Capri.
Oh, come up to Capri, she said. I'll show you Capri. And she did.
Gracie Fields made a huge contribution during the Second World War by raising money and the morale of the troops. When she died in 1979, aged 81, the nation had lost an icon, and Lancashire had lost its much-loved lass. But for Michael, he had lost his Auntie Gracie.
I met some nice people in my life, but nothing like Gracie. I was just very lucky that I knew someone like that.
Well, Carrie is here, who's been serenading us with that wonderful Gracie warble throughout the VT. But she made a bit of an enemy, didn't she, of Winston Churchill?
She did, and it was a really interesting period of her career because she'd been a massive musical star. She'd then made a dozen films in the 30s, and she was awarded CBE. She then got very ill at the end of the 30s with cancer. Her mum was going blind. Her mother wanted her to get married. She got married to an Italian. So it was all going very well. She gets married to an Italian, but of course, Italy sides with Germany in the war, and so if they were going to live as a married couple in Italy, he would have had to fight. If they were going to live in Britain, he would be imprisoned. So they flee to Canada, at which point Churchill says, well, go and make money out of the Americans. But what she was actually doing while she was in Canada was actually entertaining the troops.
Right.
So she was still doing her work, but news of it didn't get back to Britain for some time. She returns to Britain in the late 40s, and in 1948 she performs at the Palladium. She doesn't tell anyone what she's going to sing. And she sings, "Take me to your heart again." And of course, the public, the press love her, and everyone...
I just want to applaud you for that, because that was lovely what you just said.
I'm sorry, that is the sound of my childhood. That's the sound of my nan. That is the sound of everybody's grandmother. Has that lovely to their voice.
Yeah.
We should just mention Seb here.
Well, yes,
he's like a new member of this band we're forming.
Now, Seb, you run the official Gracie Fields fan club.
The Appreciation Society, that's
the
right.
Appreciation Society. I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry.
Hairs, then.
So how is it then that a 21-year-old boy, you know, has found himself in this position? What got you interested in Gracie Fields in the first place?
Well, my interest in Gracie came when I was at high school. I was doing a project on the Second World War.
Right.
And my friends were looking at Vera Lynn and Anne Shelton. And I found a CD with a lady called Gracie Fields on there. I thought, wow, that is an interesting voice. I need to look into this. And I looked into it and I found out she was from Rochdale, which is about 12 miles from where I live. And I looked into this further and I became friends with one of her good friends called John Taylor, who has a massive collection of Gracie things. And then I've just grown my own collection from there, and with the help of some friends, Sean, Chris, David, we've set up the first Gracie website on the internet that's official, and I'm currently in the process of writing Gracie's authorised biography for the first time.
You've never heard of One Direction?
On the...
They don't sing like Gracie.
On the flip side of the appreciation for Gracie Fields, Craig, your dad wasn't really a fan.
No, I think there was always a thing that, whether it was true or not, that it was perceived in a way that she'd abandoned Britain at the start of the war. And I think, if you look at the facts, that isn't the case, but I think many people who lived through the war, there was always a slight resentment or a slight distrust of Gracie Fields. As great as entertaining as she was, a fantastic star. You know?
I mean, it's quite interesting, this. What is this? This is the visa for her to go into Canada.
This is Gracie's emigration visa when she left the country in 1940 with her husband. And actually on the visa it says Grace Bianchi, which was her married name, professionally known Italian, which is quite interesting, and also says that she's going to move to America for the purpose of living. So if somebody had this document, like I have, they could say, actually, yeah, Gracie could have been deserting her country. But bearing in mind the tours that she did in Canada, America, and then eventually into the Pacific and the Southeast, she was actually making money for Britain, a great amount of money for Britain.
Yes, yeah, and you were saying, even though, Craig, that your dad wasn't keen, lots of people in Scotland loved her. We've got this brilliant picture of her in the Glasgow shipyard.
Yeah, that's in a kind
There's a crowd there, isn't there?
41.
I'm not being funny, but do you think they look a bit miserable?
They do, don't they?
Look, she's singing her heart out.
They're in awe.
They're working in a shipyard.
Well, that actual photograph, there was a rival shipyard on the same Clydebank River, and they heard Gracie come on to sing for them. They said, actually, well, we want Gracie on as well. So she said, right, I'll put another concert in, and she went down the road and performed for the next set of people.
Right.
Which is quite a nice story.
Great. Well, listen, thank you very much indeed.
As you wave me goodbye, cheerio, here I go on my way. Wish me luck as you wave me goodbye. With a cheer, not a tear, make